more today. Want to thank the War Room for putting it live. We have our own channel on Lindell TV, Cloud Hub, Stern American. Also want to thank 142 podcasters that are streaming this live all over the country. Want to also let you know, this is our probably over 2 years we've been doing our election integrity precinct strategy Zoom meetings. Want to thank Raj for helping us, Michelle Swinnick, who started with me. And we want to bring on our top guest today, Jovan Pulitzer, who is an inventor. He invented a big barcode scanner. He's written numerous books, of which he gave me a personalized one, Countdown to Chaos. He's involved in our Flag Day events, and thank him very much for doing that. He promotes election security, election integrity, whatever he wants to call it today. So Jovan, take it away. Thank you very much for coming on.
Hey guys, it's great to be here. I'm going to share my screen in just a minute. The barcode scanner Steve's talking about, when your phone uses your camera to read a barcode, Q code, QR code, ISBN, USB, anything like that, that's my patented platform. It's about 207 patents that created that platform, and it's on everybody's mobile phone. Let me tell you why I'm coming here today. Of course, I've been involved in this a while, but let me start at the top. Just a few things I would suggest to people as we head into a new election season before I share things on my screen to look at. The lowest hanging fruit that all of us have as we head into the next election season is basically going to be our contracts that we have with our ballot printers and our ballot mailers. That all can be handled very easily in contracts, just standard contracts. It doesn't require representative, state, Senate, or anything approval. It's simple contract law. Most of the people that print our ballots do not have fiduciary terms in their contracts that require that they report how many ballots did they print, how many ballots did they misprint, how many extra ballots did they allocate, and then what was the disposition of those ballots. Many of the ballot printers are also the ballot mailers. They are not held accountable to how many did you mail, how many did you process, how many came back, how many did you open, and how many were actually done, meaning they came back, the packet came back. Additionally, they're not required in transparency to tell us what did they pay per each ballot packet. Now, every one of those things is a trackable audit item that doesn't have to be approved by your legislators. And it allows you, through low-hanging information fruit, to allow everything that happens with your ballot printers and mailing to be audited. It's a very simple process. If they paid $1 to send each ballot packet out, and you had 1 million voters, let's say in your area, there better be $1 million U.S. postal fee ding out, and you better be able to see that invoicing, et cetera. So I want to remind everybody, go back and look at some of the training that we did on this, and it might help you as we go forward. I'm going to share my screen now, so let me make sure I can do it. Let me go here, and I'm going to just kind of pop through a number one. First off, I want to give you a visual audit of exactly where we are in January 2025 headed into the midterms. There you go. You should be able to see my screen now.
Yes,
These are the numbers. Thank you. These are the numbers of supposed votes that occurred in the past. Barack Obama, 69 million. Barack Obama's second term, 65 million. Hillary supposedly got 65 million votes when it came to 2016. Biden supposedly got 81 million votes for 2020. And then Kamala, although it's reported at 68, they've now scooted that number up into the 70 million range. Now, the number one thing you should see by looking at this number is the anomaly sticks out like a sore thumb. And it also doesn't mean that 13 to 17 million people just didn't vote in the 2024 cycle. Now, why should you be concerned with this? The reason you should be concerned with this is because those voters, and I don't call a voter doesn't mean that it's a real human. It only means that they're on the books. Those voters did not go away. Nothing changed with Donald J. Trump getting in the White House when it comes to election integrity. Yes, America has a bit of a breather, and we have a leader at the top who cares about this very deeply, let's hope, and is going to be charged with making the right decision. But I also want to remind you a few things, that in the 2024 election, that the counting went on across the nation in different places for 60 days. Now, I want to remind you, it didn't mean they left the machines running for 60 days, does it? Did they leave all the precincts and the voting machines out there running for 60 days, folks? Because you know, it's the machines. No, they didn't. See, all of that fat is built into our system. That is what's called a fungible asset. And in the 4 years we've all been working on this since 2020, that ball did not move at all. Those numbers are still on the books. I'm going to show you the next one so you understand this. Because somebody, you know, you've got to look at this holistically to understand what we're looking at. Here's the next screen. You now understand over in Europe, they have now modified their ID laws to allow foreign nationals to vote. The illegals, they're allowing to vote. Let me ask you a question. Is that the machines? No, folks, it's not the machines. This is the fungible assets stuck inside our systems, and globally, they're going to deploy it globally, because this is not over by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be deployed. So what did we do in this process? Well, if we wanted to talk about things that maybe we got accomplished, we can talk about, well, Georgia got a ballot with a special watermark in it, with a fluorescent watermark, security grade. Well, see, that only works, folks, if in fact we look at the paper ballots. Let me ask you a question. Did we get to look at the paper ballots? The answer is no. We're not looking at our lawmakers who make anywhere from 10 to 25 cents for those very ballots right there that get printed. They get paid, but they're not required to disclose that. But yet they go out all across the country pumping it up. Now, if we were to look at this very seriously and try to understand, okay, what are we dealing with as a country? What do we have to deal with? This is the number one thing we have to deal with right here. And again, all of this was ignored since 2020. You have two rules. You have the Election Assistance Commission rules that do the national guidelines. And they have their set of rules are called the VVSG, Voluntary Voting System Guidelines. And in the Voluntary Voting System Guidelines, you must understand basic functionality, accessibility, and security capabilities are all 100% voluntary. Let me ask you a question. If our machines in the system are 100% voluntary, when you put them on the court stand and you ask them, why did this happen? They're going to basically say, well, we did our best. Well, you changed something in the machine. And people think that, do you know there's not a law that these can't be connected to the internet? But yet you're left to assume that there is a law that says they can't be. This is what's wrong with our system, which brings me to what I want to talk to everybody about. After the 2020 election, when everybody realized something was wrong, a giant miracle happened. That giant miracle is the people in the United States of America rallied behind one reality that was facing us at the time. That reality that was facing us at the time in 2020 was we had the right to look at every single ballot that came back into the system in Maricopa County, Arizona. Every single ballot. Now, the reason why that's important is because anything to do with the machine in a court of law at best is a misdemeanor where somebody may get fined $1,000. When it comes to the physical ballot, which is different, each inference of the ballot is both a federal and a state felony. But yet the whole system kept everybody away from the ballots. Now, why do I bring this up? At one time, all of us were together in this. And somehow after April of 2021, an interesting thing happened to us. You see, when the Arizona audit came about and the American people spoke, we want a full forensic audit, which became the catchword of the day, then instantly everybody was doing full forensic audits. What happened under the headlines that you didn't see was both people on the left of the aisle and the right of the aisle said, oh, these people are pushing for Jovan to do a full forensic audit. Let's do something to placate him. Let's give him just a few of the ballots so we can shut him up. Because when I showed you how to find it, it went viral. Well, back then, if you followed me, you know that I said, okay, guys, when they told me that, I said, then I'm not going to do the audit. Now, they kind of breathed a sigh of relief. But when I said that, because I said I do them all or nothing, they kind of thought they had to win. I said, but I'm going to go back to the public and I'm going to tell them that you don't want to do every one of the ballots. And I said, you're going to have to answer to the public. Now, that generated the second and third round of calls and emails. 60,000 calls went into the Arizona switchboard. Now, back then, all of us in the United States of America were on the same page. We just want to know what happens. We just want to look at the actual data, the real data. But in the meantime, we got this new crop of people. Oh, let's look at the Edison data, or let's look at this, or it's the machines, who had never participated either in audits before or otherwise. And we became fractured. Now, I'm saying this because I am probably, and I embrace it, the most vilified, hated, rumored, muckraked person in this election integrity stuff. Depending upon the prevailing crap, I'm either Mossad or a Fed boy, or I never did an audit, or, well, while Jovan was at the Arizona audit and he was there on the floor, he was raking crap and stirring people up. And unfortunately, even though as one of the speakers today is the person that said that, I never set foot there. That was by design. Now, why do I bring this up? Because now here we are 4 years later, and we have solved nothing. Because here are the rules. You follow the Election Assistance Commission's guidelines, or if you don't follow them, you must follow what the state guidelines are. So you go to the state guidelines, and the state guidelines say the guidelines we follow are the Election Assistance Commission's guidelines. Now, do you get that circle? Not too long ago, sitting in the office of President Trump, called me in to sit down with him, sat down with him an hour and a half talking about how we fix this. I'm recommending getting rid of the voter rolls, et cetera. And I have to explain, we've got to clean these rolls. His very person sitting there, who is now his chief of staff, said, well, we're told if we clean the voter rolls, it's a waste of time. It's like sweeping a dirt floor. You can't clean the voter rolls. Now, I bring every bit of this up because why? We're fractured. Now, I want to juxtapose where we are today, where we are then. Before this came an industry where people became podcasters and broadcasters and networks and election integrity experts. I'm going to do an election integrity call for you. Let me tell you how it does. I know I just stopped working at Taco Bell, but I now know about elections, right? And you follow it. Now, I don't begrudge you that because I guess I'm Satan's son. I am totally embrace what gets said about me. I do that because people are petty. Now, why do I even call this out? I call it out because in reality, folks, We're all glad that President Trump got in, but this is where we are. This is the unvarnished truth right here. And the reason that number is on the books, I'm not sure why my screen, there we go, is revealing. The reason that number is still here is because we became fractured. It became a contest. It became, hey, I got my own private foundation, come here, donate this, or I've got my version here, donate this, or I've got my plan, let me put my name on it. And we all became, in this weird, sick way, competitors when everybody's just trying to do what's right by the nation. So here we are, and here's the unvarnished truth. We're going to get our ass handed to us in the midterms. It's fait accompli, and the Democrats are already talking about it. Hakeem Jeffries is already bragging about it. He's got the House. That is going to come full force because we haven't changed anything. And we've gone from looking at the paper to we got flying drones. Now, here's what I want to recommend to everybody. You know that we get upset with liberals because if they don't, they say, if you don't think the same as me, you pray to God, you do this, you're bad, they cut off. You know who's worse at doing that? Who's worse at doing that, right? Who's worse at doing that is everybody in this conservative effort. Because what has become more important is who gets credit for it, who's the top broadcaster, who's the favorite are. In fact, media companies now participate in this call. Media companies who will not put the real people on that do the work, but put their favorite flavor of the day because that's who they like. Isn't that what mainstream media did to us? Isn't it what mainstream media did to us? Now, here's where we set. I want to play a fairy tale for you, folks. And by the way, yes, I am the bearer of bad news because I tell it like it is. Imagine what would happen if we supposedly out there have 400,000 of us. You've heard those numbers. 400,000 of us, right? What if every one of us on this call, all with their little books or whatever, or do my plan first, or my patriot this or whatever. What if we all got in the same bucket and we realize what makes this work is great discipline, like a great professional team. You got people that really are great at the FOIA request. You got people that are really great of defining things down that we should talk to lawmakers about. You got people that understand the paper, right? And here you go. Ready? People said, I completely disagree. The groups don't compete. We work just fine together. People who think a group is, I'm in a little group here, we talk about our stuff. Folks, that's not what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. Let's take it bigger than what your mind can comprehend. See, you might have missed that I said there's 400,000 of us. Imagine if all 400,000 of us got together and we became the great big organization that we truly are. It's the same way the Democrats move us. Do you know if we just accepted everybody's discipline and it wasn't the Lindale plan, the Robin plan, the Sean plan, the Bubba Patriot plan, and we pushed it all together and we understood that we were all in the same boat and that ship to navigate takes multiple disciplines and expertise. If we understood that was what needs to happen, do you understand what you can do with 400,000 people? That's 400,000 people working on every person's state. That's 400,000 people pushing down distributed knowledge about FOIA requests, etc. That's 400,000 people knowing exactly what a full forensic audit is and not bitching about, well, you forensically look at a hard drive and that's forensic, so we're forensic. Folks, we lost this game. Yes, I don't think you can measure that President Trump got in based on election integrity efforts. Yes, we're all a lot smarter. We're all a lot smarter. But we didn't move the ball. We let lawmakers take drop boxes in Michigan off the books and in Wisconsin too and put them right back on. You know why that happens? Because 400,000 of us are not talking in unison. Do you know 400,000, when it goes back to where you make a big difference, that's about what AARP started. Now, I'm not talking about becoming a membership organization. I'm talking about, could you imagine if we took all of the knowledge base that we all have and we stopped this absolute bullshit of everybody's competing, and then you understand everybody's setting up all their little 501(c)(3)s and promoting them. Hey, do this, donate here. You know, we're all competing for the same dollars. Why don't we just become the thing? You know, with 400,000 people that actually know what it takes for election integrity, you don't choose sides. Well, we got to melt prison bars. That's what we should do. Well, it's never going to happen. But if you imagine you had the forensic knowledge, the educational knowledge, the legal knowledge behind it, and it wasn't a team thing, it was more of a community thing, and we're all in it together. Do you understand what we could do? Number one, let's talk about acting locally. Do you know that it should be us that when we get people running for our state legislators, that we should ourselves make sure they know about our elections and how they run? And those people actually should be able to go through coursework that we give them to teach them the most important thing in the United States, put them through it, and be able to validate them. But do we do that? No, we don't do that. Could you imagine what we could do if somebody runs for state and we hold it up and we say, this is not only the person that knows, but this is the person that has been trained to understand how election work. See, lawmakers aren't going to fix it for you folks because they don't even know how this shit works. But everybody's got their little plan. I'm putting out a call very simply. Everyone needs to get on the same damn page. We need to stop with, I've got my website and I've got my app and I've got this. And we need to push all of this knowledge base together. It ain't about poll watching, or it would have already changed it. Everything has to change, folks, everything. And we have to put together a group that is not based on, well, I don't like him, or he uses a cuss word, or he's a Jew. Think about that. You can look somebody in the face that knows how it works, but you will decide you don't like them because you heard a rumor. The same stuff that the media has always done to us, and we fall prey of it. I'm suggesting that everybody put on their big boy pants, that everybody have a come to Jesus meeting and understand, are we going to get the GOP to do this? Hell no. Is this Donald J. Trump's job? Hell no. This is our job. Donald Trump is the leader. He has given us back our authority that the founders gave to us, and that was we the people tell the lawmakers what to do. Do I have, here's the plan, I'll give it to you right now and approve it and vote by committee? If you think that's what I'm saying, you already missed the boat. No, I'm saying we can talk, we can get speakers. Here's my book this week. Hey, here's my new plan this week. Hey, download my app. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about everybody that's in this, that's really in this. Not a podcaster about it. That's an amplifier. And come to a consensus. If we're going to be one organization and we're going to take these 400,000 or 500,000 points of light, it's about damn time we put this into a spotlight and we quit playing by teams. And we turn this into a spotlight. Everybody gets the same training, the same information. We do this regularly and commit, and it's not all this damn competition for egos. And as far as the broadcasters, how many broadcasters did you see cover the Arizona audit? None. You know why they didn't cover the Arizona audit as they told you they were patriots or whatever? Because they were told by the system, don't cover the Arizona audit. Is that what you want to be part of? You're not auditing your lawmakers. You're not even auditing the people you listen to. So I'm begging everybody, if we're really going to move the ball, because when it comes, midterms, and by the way, we don't have 2 years, folks. We have one. We have exactly 1 year to get our crap together. And I'm saying, let's become the force that gets people elected, gets the laws drafted that we inform our lawmakers on. Quit waiting for them. Quit all this competition stuff. Stop it. And form one cohesive battle unit battalion that can take this evil cabal down. And that's my recommendation. Otherwise, folks, come midterms, we'll be at the same place. And instead of everybody, hey, give me money for this, give me money for this, I need money for this. Why don't we just get together? We'll find the money if everybody can get together. But if we're all fractured, which is what they designed, look how many different directions we went. That's why I told you, at one time we were on the same page. And that was when we had the chance of getting the full forensic audit in Arizona, and we did. And you ask again, well, what's your plan? Are you not listening? Here's what we do. You decide who the people are. You put everybody on one call first, and we hammer it out behind closed doors and basically get ourselves in agreement. If you think, well, I need it on a piece of paper, give it to me now. That's not how it works. Then you have no idea how you get it together. We can't even talk to each other. Why don't you start there, folks? Get everybody together in one call that really does it. And we agree that we're going to do this. We're going to walk to the same tune. We're going to march to the same tune. I guarantee you we'll come out with a plan. I yield my time.
Thank you, Jovan. Man, what a way to start 2025. I guess this is not our first call, but I just want to, not that he needs to be underscored, but I do want to say something related to what Jovan said. When Defend Florida, Defend Our Union started, Jovan, and no one knew what the heck was going on. This is right after J6, January 6th. Jovan was one of those people that spoke to the Defend Florida team, and we simply just did what he said to do. The Defend Florida volunteers have written legislation. They've got sponsors. They've been to Tallahassee in this crazy winter cold. They're simply executing what Jovan said to do. And now that Trump is in, this grifter element that Jovan is pointing to is just going to expand. We don't have the opposition of Biden anymore, so there's a free-for-all for people who want to be striving for being the center of attention. So my request to you, my friends that are watching, before we bring on our next speaker, is take the recording of this interview. You will find it on sternamerican.com, sternamerican.com. Go to the recording there. Just look for the Rumble channel, look for the live feeds. Steve's team has got all of these calls recorded there. Get this particular segment to everyone you know. This is a good warning. It's a good correction, and more people need to hear it. And you, my friends, are the ones that are going to do it. Also, you can see on the screen behind me, Tina Peters. We are dedicating this entire episode to Tina Peters. Steve Stern may say something more about that during the program. But before we do that, I want to make a note here that the amount of work that has to take place to get these calls, to get these podcasters to carry this program, to then remind them to remind them again, is massive. And so what you can do is you can do what Steve Stern keeps inviting us to, and you're going to see this on the video. Get your own shirt like I have over here, and when you purchase a shirt in that manner, you literally are helping election security, because you're actually helping get word about these calls out to more people. So please stay tuned for this special announcement here from the flag shirt. And most importantly, at the end of the announcement, you're going to see a call to action. Please, 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 please take that action. The shirts are fantastic, and I hope you enjoyed this short word.
It defines the American spirit, preserving life, liberty, and pursuing happiness, caring for the nation we call home and its people. As patriots, it's our duty to drive the entrepreneurial spirit, pushing hard, reaching for success, sharing patriotism, because the American way of life is for all to live.
I'm Steve Stern, CEO of Flagshirt.com, a third-generation, veteran-owned small business. I believe that the American way of life is for all of us. I'm asking you today to visit Flagshirt.com. Help keep the American dream alive.
the flag shirt where freedom reigns. What
Awesome.
defines the American?
And for those folks that are watching this through our podcasters, thank you so much for watching us. If you want to get inside information in terms of when these calls are taking place, get announcements of that, please text the word elections to 91776. Text the word elections to 91776. You're not going to get spammed. You're not going to get asked for money, but you will get notification of these calls. So with that said, we are now going to our next speaker. Steve, did you want to say anything, or shall we go right to our next speaker?
Raj, let me just let everybody know that I did speak to Tina Peters before this call. I was on for about 30 minutes with her. She asked me to tell you something first. I believe she was moved from one jail to another for protection. Two, she asked me to read this to you. Tina Peters is immune from prosecution and the sentence imposed by the state of Colorado because Colorado violated her rights of protection. Tina Peters is immune from prosecution and sentence imposed by the Colorado court because of the Supreme Clause of the U.S. Constitution, U.S. Constitution Article 6(2), and the Privileges and Immunity Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, Article 4, Clause 2. As a result, Colorado has no subject matter jurisdiction over this case against her, and the verdict must be overturned. I'd also like to say that I did contact Tom Homan, numerous Trump people today, to ask for Trump to get her a pardon based upon what she's saying. Anybody who knows anybody in the Trump campaign that could send a letter out. I know there's been some letters sent out. We thought that when Trump did the J6s that he was going to do it for Tina. Tina is 70 years old. She's ailing. She also told me that the food is terrible, of course. And she's in with people that she has no communication with. Many drug people, it's murderers, everything under the sun. It's a shame what they're doing to this woman. It's my distinct pleasure to start a drive after this call. Steve Bannon is going to help us, Wayne Root, many, many people around the country to start to pump out information to the Colorado Supreme Court, to the Colorado governor, to the Secretary of State for the injustice caused to this woman. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Steve, and we'll keep bringing up Tina Peters throughout the call. We need your action here. For now, we're going to go right to Steve Gillen. Steve Gillen.
No, we're going to Leah Hoops.
Copy that. We're going to Leah Hoops. Okay, Leah Hoops, stand by. Okay, Leah Hoops, go ahead and unmute, and you're up, Leah.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for having me again. Hello, Steve. You're always a breath of fresh air. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and Raj, thank you for putting this all together. I just want to say that I feel very elated to know that a lot of my friends have been released. J6ers have been pardoned. So all glory to God. And also for the awesome win, which really should be given to the Patriots that helped President Trump get into office. I wanted to kind of follow up and let people know about what happened here in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And that's really where I've dug my trench, and Greg Stenstrom, my partner, has dug his trench as well. We believe in doing things locally and have done so since actually I started in 2019 as a committee woman, and then I became a poll watcher in the 2020 election. Since then, we have suffered lawfare, harassment, intimidation, the attempts to confiscate our firearms, threats to our liberty, our lives, and so on and so on. We have stayed the course, and because we have stayed the course and stayed in our own backyards and stayed away from a lot of the top-down approach and national, groups, we've had a lot of success here in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and that's what we believe is truly how we're going to win back our republic. Is county by county. So to just give you a little bit of an update, we were co-defendants with President Trump in a lawsuit in Philadelphia, and that took us 900 days of representing ourselves. And we ended up, they offered a settlement in the defamation case, and we did not take that settlement. And because of that, they withdrew the complaint against us, which they were asking for millions of dollars in damages. The plaintiff in that case was James Savage, was the voting machine warehouse supervisor of Delaware County. He was a Democrat operative, and he has since been defeated. And because they withdrew the complaint, that also meant that President Trump's case was also dismissed because of that. We were also sued in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, for another defamation case against us, Newsmax, The Federalist, Margot Cleveland, Hogan Gidley, and other co-defendants. And the basis for these defamation cases was because Greg and I had sued Delaware County back in 2020 and 2021 because we were witnesses in the election fraud in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. We filed that suit against them. We had done a sting operation with a whistleblower, of which we caught them committing election fraud on camera. And then we wrote a book about it called The Parallel Election in order to protect ourselves. And because of that, the courts quashed all of our efforts, and they attempted to sanction us and so on and so on. And then eventually the lawfare ensued, 2 defamation cases, which we have defeated successfully pro se, which means that we've represented ourselves in court. And then we have another case against us. It's a malicious prosecution case, which is absolute, it's nonsense. But this is kind of the sacrifices that you must make, and the things that they do not talk about, online, and the things that you have to go through in order to defeat your enemy. The biggest thing that we found, that obviously the elections are just the means to an end in order to extract wealth, and in order to continue on with their communist plan, which is state capture. And that's exactly what's happening here in Pennsylvania. And the head of the snake is Josh Shapiro, our governor. And we have a website that shows all of his crimes. It's called www.joshshapirofraud.com. We have started working with other whistleblowers and witnesses in order to defeat Josh Shapiro. But if I can just share my screen here, I'm going to go back to 2016 and talk about this long plan that we talk about in the book, but it's really the 100-year plan in order to do state capture. These are communists is what we're dealing with. But so what we're dealing with at the moment here I don't know that I can share my screen.
You can hit the green share button, click the green share button at the bottom, and you can share it.
There we go. So can you guys see this?
Not yet. If you have more than one monitor, select the monitor and click share again. So you'll click the share button, it'll show your monitors, select the monitor, and then in the bottom right side of the screen, there'll be another share button. There you go.
Okay, can you guys see this?
There it is. We can see you now. Go ahead and put your PowerPoint or whatever you want to put on the screen.
Okay, sorry. I'm just trying to deal with this as I go here. 1 second. Can you see my screen now where it says voting technology in Pennsylvania?
No, we still see you.
All right,
Stop the share, and then go back to just when you click share, you're going to see 4 or 5 little windows. Click only on the window that shows exactly what you want to show. Click that window first, and then click share, and it should pop right up.
Thank you for that. You know what? We're going to have to wait till the next call, just so I don't waste anyone's time. We discuss it in the book, but all the way back in 2016, Pennsylvania had decided to do a Senate Resolution 394, and they did a report, and this was obviously way before the pandemic of 2020, but they wanted to look into voting machines and voting technology, and they started making recommendations to the legislatures. And it was anything from creating pop-up voter centers to automatic voter registration to these vote centers. And the ultimate plan is to get rid of the in-person vote. And we can kind of see that right now in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and all across the surrounding counties in Montgomery County, Chester County, and Philadelphia County as well. And they're getting rid of the in-person vote. And that is really the point of what they want to accomplish. And they want us to look like Colorado. So this voting technology and the recommendations, and then they started amending our constitution here in Pennsylvania. And now we have all mail-in ballots in Act 77. And Delaware County, as of yesterday, is trying to consolidate 100 precincts. And like I said, the end goal for the entire country, but right now for Pennsylvania, is to get rid of the in-person vote. It's incredibly frustrating to do what we do and fight the good fight and have people pushing mail-in ballots, which there's absolutely no security. There's no way of knowing who has voted. And kind of what Jovan was talking about, we get into the ballots and we get into the mail-in ballot envelopes. There's no oversight. There's no way of knowing, who actually sent that ballot in. So that is the end goal. And the bigger goal right now is to what's called state capture. And what we're watching is, as they're stealing these elections down ballot, because President Trump did not win Pennsylvania through the early vote or mail-in ballots, that is a fact. What is happening is they're stealing down ballots still, because the legislatures and your county council people and all these people are very important in continuing on with the plan. And the ultimate plan, I just want to let everyone know, for Philadelphia, Montgomery, Delaware, and Chester County, is they are implementing right now as we speak removal of the in-person vote and walkways, which sounds crazy, but it's the Agenda 2030. And they're trying to create one giant city. And if you combine all of our counties together, it gives you a total population of 3.5 million people, which would dominate Pennsylvania and allow them to capture the communist way our entire Commonwealth. So that is the ultimate plan. Jovan, I appreciate what you're saying about having a plan, but we need to be discussing the communist plan and your enemy's plan, and we need to be very, very, very proactive. That is Greg and my goal, is to continue to dig our trench and to stay in that trench and stay in my backyard. We would be more than happy to help anyone across the country, which we have, in fighting the lawfare, or filing pro se, or any of the things that we've done successfully. We are very, very successful in getting not only attorneys sanctioned, but their law licenses suspended, and also exposing law firms and exposing these county council people to the point where they capitulate and they resign. So these are the tactics that we use. I want to give everyone an update that we are successful now in 2 pro se cases. We've gone up against the absolute best. The best of the best. We've gone up against Ballard Spahr and Dwayne Morris, and these lawyers are capitulating to us. So that's how we roll. That's who we are, and that's a part of our DNA as Americans, is that we are fighters. I would encourage people again to be proactive and not reactive. That's what I'm watching, is people cowering and waiting until after something happens. This is our time. Especially here in Pennsylvania, because Governor Shapiro is up in 2026, and I plan on destroying that man with every possible chance that I can. So I appreciate your time. You can order a book if you'd like to. There's also an opportunity to support our efforts, and if you would like any help, I would be more than happy to take the time privately and speak with anyone that would like to do what we do.
Thank you very much. Joe Hoft is up next.
Hey guys, hey Leah, thanks for sharing that. It's great seeing you. Thanks. Yeah, this is Joe Hoft. I just got off the air with Tina Peters just moments ago. She dialed into my show, the Joe Hoft Show, that's available weekdays from 1 to 2 on Lindell TV, as well as at Rumble and Conservative Daily. Tina had some great information for us that we shared today, and I want to share it with you. And my understanding is Steve shared this one piece of information that was sent to us just after the call with Tina. So Tina dialed in, as many of you know, she's incarcerated right now. She was incarcerated immediately after the bogus trial that she had in Colorado. The state went after her. So as the days have approached here with Trump's presidency, a number of people would say, hey, we need to get President Trump to pardon her. Well, the dilemma was this was all done in the state court, and they had moved it to the state court, I think nefariously, to try to punish her. because she shared the truth. I think that's what everything's about. The harder you get punished is based on the truth that you drop. It's not based on crimes, and that's certainly the case with Tina. So Tina, as many of you know, was out in Colorado in a county out there, and she uncovered some information related to the Dominion systems, and has written 3 reports about it. It's out there at her site, tinapeters.us, and this information's there. And she outlines what she found, and as a result, she was arrested. They accused her of committing crimes in the process of identifying this information. Now, she argues today in our discussion that it was she was adhering to the federal law when she did these activities. She had a job as the registrar of voters in her county to ensure that they had free, fair, and accurate elections. What she found was that that was not the case, and she had evidence of that, and they accused her and made up some crimes in order to punish her. They eventually did throw her in this facility where she's at today. She's on her way to prison. She's not quite there yet, is my understanding. She's in a holding pen of sorts, and it's been really terrible. So what Tina shared is there's a supremacy clause in the U.S. Constitution, and what this basically states is that federal law supersedes state law, and that's what Steve shared earlier. And this is great news, because President Trump can't come in, as my understanding, as and pardon her, because she's been convicted in a state court. And I'm not an attorney, but that's my understanding. But if President Trump were to come in and basically use which is what she was doing, she was trying to adhere with federal election laws when she did what she did, and say that these laws supersede the state laws, which they do based on the supremacy clause. Tina has a very, I think, a good case, and it's something the president could use to get her out of that prison where she does not deserve to be. I believe everything she did was accurate. Since then, we've had reporting. I've received some information, actually from Aaron Clements, that the people that were working beside her in the Treasury Department of her county, the former registrar of voters, was working with Dominion at the time that Tina had taken over her position. She wasn't made aware of it. Other associates in that county office were working for Dominion. She didn't know it. There's all sorts of issues. Merrick Garland was on some communication early on related to this case. I think this is what we're finding across the board, across the country, in many of these cases, including a civil case that I was involved in, and Jim, with the out of the state of Georgia. It looked like all of this was being managed in one central location, which I think was ultimately the Biden White House and the DOJ, Merrick Garland. And so there's some evidence for that in Tina's case as well. Lots of wrongdoing, and hopefully we can really petition to get the word out that, hey, she has a case here. There's federal statutes that back her actions, that perhaps we can get her out. So that's probably my biggest message today. There's lots going on. Leah just dropped the word, and maybe you've all talked about it at some length. These House and Senate races were absolutely, I think, stolen in this election. We need to continue to fight for that. In Orange County alone, which is a red county, is just south of LA, they had 6 U.S. House seats. 5 of them went blue. It doesn't make sense. Everybody out there says it doesn't make sense. In that county alone, they had a bomb threat. There was multiple bomb threats across the country. Nobody's talking about it now. You notice that 50 plus bomb threats across the country, and nobody's talking about it. One was in Orange County. And after that bomb threat on a Friday night after the election, they ended up 3 of those seats flipped blue. So lots of wrongdoing in California. We've determined 17% of the voter rolls are bogus. They include non-citizens, 17%. And Orange County's no doubt no exception to that rule. They have the drop boxes. They still have ballot harvesting. They made it so that it's illegal to ask if somebody's ID when they vote. They also put in legislation that made it basically impossible to challenge anything. So people in Orange County have told us that they would challenge signatures that were typed up or we're all the same and it didn't matter. They don't have to listen to the observers. And so we've even found a video here recently where one individual shoved ballast through 3 times. And this all occurred during the bomb threat. So crazy situation. We've got more evidence in Orange County we're going to come out with too. Put up that Tina piece later today and write about, see if we can't get it over to Gateway Pundit too, and put up this story about Tina. Tina has a case. There's a federal avenue to get her out of that situation she's in, which she never should have been put in. And we need to see people celebrate her release just like we have this week with the January 6ers. So I guess that's it, Steve. It's great to be here. Thanks for what you
We
do.
appreciate it, and we'll get you back on again. Next
And-
up,
And
talk
Joe,
about-
pardon me, one,
Go ahead.
Joe, for those people who don't know where your stuff is, I know you're putting Peter's thing on later today. How do they get to your article?
Yeah, well, we'll get that up at joehoft.com. We'll try to push it over to the Gateway Pundit, and the video will be up at Lindell TV as well as joehoft.com, as well as hopefully here at the Gateway Pundit by the end of the day. We'll try to explain the supremacy clause as well.
Great.
Thanks, Raj. Good. Thanks for your help, guys.
All right, Raj. So we're going to talk a little bit about precinct strategy. Our Zoom meetings were started by precinct strategy by Dan Schultz over 2 years ago when President Trump endorsed precinct strategy. And during my meetings behind this with President Trump, he asked us to do a election security meeting, and we did that. But precinct strategy, we don't want to lose that, because what Jovan is saying, getting 200,000 or 400,000 people together, we have 200,000 people in precinct strategy and 400,000 election integrity, which makes no sense, because precinct strategy is getting people elected. And our next guest, who I was on, and also Dan Schultz was on this past week, has done a tremendous job in the state of New York and has tried to get people elected, having people run for the Democratic Party and nobody running against them. I want to let you know that Steve Gillen has done a phenomenal job with his Project Civica. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve, and welcome to everybody else that's here. I appreciate the time to tell you what's happening here in New York. All right, we know that most people think that New York is a lost cause. All right, it's not the case. New York went 52% of the 52 counties out of 62 counties went red. All right, that's a phenomenal outcome, considering, we're always told that New York is just a Democratic state. However, we see major problems. We lost 3 congressional seats within New York this time, and it hurt. I mean, if you look at what the spread is right now in the Congress, I think it's 1, maybe 2 seats. We lost 3 incumbent seats in New York. Why did that happen? We look at it, and it could be voter integrity, as far as playing with the numbers, whatever the case may be. That's, a possibility, a strong possibility, because we know what research has been done in the past about that, about the New York State voter rolls. However, we feel that we have to then attack where the problem lies. We look at it and come down to we look at the Republican Party on a whole in New York State, and we see 5 major issues that come into play. The first one that we see is that we don't have candidates running. People may be quite surprised about this, but in New York State, we had in 2020, we had 52 seats for the state legislature that the Republicans did not put up a candidate. In 2022, we thought they did a little better. There was 48 open seats. So Project Civica, we're a nonprofit located here in New York State, and our motto is restoring liberty through civic action. And what happens is that you look at that and you have 48 open seats, no Republican running for the state legislature. So we went out as Project Civica and we started what was called Fill the 48 Project back in February of last year and February and March, and try to get candidates to run. We got 14 candidates to run under what was called the Common Sense Contract with New York, and that was a strategy we developed based on Newt Gingrich's contract with America. Got nothing but pushback from the party in the state. So then we go ahead and we say, all right, well, we brought 14 candidates on, so we should do better. It ended up in New York State in 2024. We had 53 seats, 41 in the Senate and 41 in the Assembly and 12 in the US Senate that we did not have a Republican candidate run. So when you look at that and you say, all right, how could you possibly be considered an opposition party if in fact you don't even have candidates run? Now, who's the responsibility to put candidates up? That's the state party. It's from the state chair down to the county chairs. Now, if you look at those numbers and where this exists, New York, like I said, we won a lot of counties here in New York, overwhelmingly. However, we got to look at New York City. And out of those 41 seats that we did not put up in the Assembly, 80% of them were in the 5 boroughs. Of the 12 seats that we had no Senate candidate run, 90% of them was in the 5 boroughs. So when you look at it, you got to say, like any organization, any sports team, any corporation, when you see something not working, you have to look at and analyze what has to be done. So we looked at that and we came up, like I said, with 5. And the first one was candidates. We need candidates. The second one is there's no consistent strategy in New York State to run. Again, I fashioned a common sense contract with New York after Newt Gingrich's very successful strategy. 52 seats in the House of Representatives and 9 in the Senate. So I took a proven method and incorporated here in New York. New York State needs to have a consistent strategy if we have any chance of changing the state. We have a governor's election in 26, and we need to then be prepared by building up New York State. Now, how do we do that? Again, conversations with Steve over the past, and also Dan Schultz with the committee precinct strategy. It's amazing the numbers that we have. So for argument's sake, in Brooklyn, New York, we have over 1,000 seats that we do not have a committeeman in. Now, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the committeeman process. Basically, it works by within your AD, you have your EDs in New York. I know you guys have precincts. We call them differently here in New York. ED is your election district. And you get 2 people per election district that you could have within that ED, within the ED. Now, we have thousands of seats that nobody runs. So the party then chooses who they want as their chairman. They choose who they want as their candidates to run. And in New York, we're not thrilled with the candidates that we get to choose because we don't get to choose them. The party chooses them, and nobody has a say in the matter. So what we're doing at Project Civica right now, we're combining and reaching out to people to fill those seats, to get people involved. And we talk about getting people involved is, the precinct strategy is not overwhelmingly taxing. But the big thing is, I just came from a meeting with the head of the Pakistani people from all New York City area. All right, the lead of them. And they're shocked that nobody knows what a precinct strategy is. I did a speech last week with 120 people at the event. And I asked, could people raise their hands who's familiar with what a committeeman is? 2 people out of 120 in a Republican club knew that system is actually in place to give us, the grassroots, the ability to actually go out and have a say in the matter, to say who our chairman is, to say who our candidates are, and also to be able to go out and increase the votes. Now, we look at, if he's not familiar, Queens County is one of the counties within New York City, and their numbers for 2024, they went up 22% Republican. Every county in New York State, in the city, went up at minimum of 10%. So there's people out there. There's over 56,000 people that are considered non-affiliated voters that left the Democratic Party that are in. So New York is in play. The problem is we don't have the infrastructure here in the Republican Party. Now, I went over the numbers since 2020. All right. It's not something new. This is a consistent failure by the Republican Party to actually put up a battle here in New York State. In the assembly, we have a supermajority. They don't even listen. They don't even invite the Republicans to their meetings. In the Senate, we won 1 Senate seat this round, 1, and that was it. So we have to get our people out. So how do we get them out? We feel, again, following a proven system, the precinct strategy system, that we have to go out and generate excitement within the Republican Party. We feel also, and again, I'm not sure if I was the chair of New York State and I've lost 3 congressional seats for the Republicans that really put Donald Trump in jeopardy when it comes to the House. And as everybody was talking about 2026, them taking back over, I would be a little embarrassed and I would say, let's bring in a new strategy. Let's bring in something where we can get the people involved, especially when you look at our numbers. Our numbers are not terrible. They're bad, but they're not terrible. We can overcome the difference. When you look at the percentage, we were just looking at some percentage that came out, only 57% of Democrats came out to vote in 5 boroughs. It's only 57%. We had 70% Republicans come out in areas like Queens and Staten Island, which is good. The problem is people look at the Republican Party in New York State. I was a donor, okay? I used to donate to the New York State Republican Party and, pretty often. And I stopped 4 years ago because I saw that they were not doing anything that was significant. So we look at it from a point of view that if we could generate and build the excitement like they did with the RNC. I mean, look at when we had the new RNC with Laura Trump and Watley. Immediately, what they got, I think $780,000 in the first couple of days, people started donating to the Republican Party again because they knew they were going to put up a fight. We want to generate that in New York. We want to get people excited about the Republican Party because New York is a mess. I mean, our budget in New York is $239 billion. That's more than Texas and Florida combined. All
1
right?
minute, Steve.
Yeah.
1 minute.
So, what we're looking for is any help in New York State. You could go to projectcivica.org and you could click on for a commitment process, and then you'll be able to then fill out your information and we'll train you. We have a meeting every Monday night. And on that meeting, we tell people, walk them right through the process, the petitioning process, what's entailed in it, what efforts you're going to have to put in. And we feel that we can make a difference in New York. We have city elections in 25, mayor, city council, which is huge. But in 26, we have a governor's race and we have to change our state legislature. So I'd ask anybody that is interested in New York that could help us out. We would love to have you. Again, we'll supply the training for you, and hopefully we can make a difference in New York in 26.
Thank you very much, Steve. So if everybody goes to www.precinctstrategy.com, if you want to show that. Raj?
Yes, it's on screen. We can see it. Very good. Yes, it's on screen, precinctstrategy.com.
And you can find out how to become a committee man, a committee woman. I'm
The
vice
recording
chair.
has stopped.
Broward Republican Executive Committee. You got the recording stopped. You may want to re-record.
Copy that.
This meeting is being recorded.
You got it. All right, our next guest is my favorite guy, Colonel John Mills. He's never home. He's out everywhere. John, you on there?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can't. Great looking shirt.
Look at that fabulous shirt. Look at that fabulous shirt John Mills is wearing. Wow.
I whipped it together here last few minutes. No, Steve, thank you. It is a great shirt and I love it. I wore it in the 4th of July parade. I think I sent you the pictures, but thank you, Steve. Thank you, Raj. And I want to echo and endorse what everybody's saying, and especially Jovan. I really appreciated Jovan's comments, but everybody, just real quickly. So for review, yes, we're all happy that President Trump won, but we do this because we're election integrity professionals and not because we're advocating. I personally don't care who wins as long as we have a clean and honest election, and we don't. And it was pointed out, and I think Jovan pointed it out, we did win the presidency we did win the Senate and we won the House, but we lost easily 4 Senate seats and we lost, I don't know, easily 10 to 15 House seats. And the longer people counted, the more we lost. And I always go, President Carter just passed away. His book, the Carter, the Center for Democracy, it's supposed to be the gold standard, his 2014 report. And it says right in the 2014 report, extended vote counts are always indicators of fraud. Okay. So, and throw in the dirty little Census Bureau, one of those obscure deep state organizations that easily robbed us of what should be in the census realignment, should be easily 10 seats. So we're down between what was stolen and what was should have been reapportioned via the census that has been weaponized. Easily 20 to 25 House seats. Now I hope, and there are indicators, the Department of Justice will look into maybe not all, but the most egregious of the House and the Senate seat situations, and hopefully into Arizona. But okay, I think one of the biggest wins in the 2024 election was, this is where I'm in Virginia. This is where Governor Youngkin, Attorney General Miyares, it resolved the longstanding perception, even by folks on our side of the ledger, that motor voter, the 1993 law, trumped 18 U.S. Code 611, must be a U.S. citizen to vote. And in Virginia, we have about a 3-month voting period season. And then if you interpret motor voter as being the law that you can't remove voters 90 days in advance, that means 6 months. And then you count votes for 2 months. That means for about 9 months of the year, of the 12 months, essentially you can't do anything. So this Supreme Court case that was resolved showed 18 U.S. Code 611 must be a U.S. citizen to vote. Non-negotiable, non-debatable. This is a huge victory, and I think everybody here can take this back and apply this to their state. And I think there's multi-causal factors here in the election issues. I think you have to look at it county by county and figure out. But this is a dirty rolls, and in Virginia, it's definitely dirty rolls. We removed about 3,000 voters in Virginia as a result of this SCOTUS opinion. There's a lot more out there, and I can assure you, Attorney General Miyares, who looks like he's going to be running again as the AG, probably Winsome Sears as the governor candidate. We can't run again in Virginia. We have a single term situation. They know that this is mortal, and we're going to lose Virginia in 2025. Now I'll come back to 2 states that I think are important this year. But let's talk about, and I think it's appropriate, President Trump just stormed Davos and absolutely demolished the place virtually today in a mostly peaceful way. He really did incredible in that speech. But let's talk about the influence of WEF on our counties. And you want to know, if you ever go to a National Association of County meeting, which I have, the influence of the WEF, they have booths there. They're sending county officials. Holy smokes. Are you kidding me? You really got to understand, you got to make sure your county is not sending anybody to any WEF event. And we graduated from poll watching, which I think is essentially worthless, to, okay, be an election officer. It took like 2 to 3 years to get the Republican parties cognizant of the difference between a poll watcher and an election officer. 2 totally different things. Do you want to be the person in front of the counter pretending to do something, or do you want to be the person behind the counter counting the votes? Well, I'm going to raise it up even more. You know what we should be shooting for? Not just being an election officer. Everybody here should be making sure we have the county registrar, or sometimes it's called a recorder, or some counties there's about 3,300 counties. We should be making sure that we have we need to get the right people into these registrar positions. My registrar blew my mind. My registrar makes $180,000 a year, and it's a simple job. You're just applying for a job. Every county's a little bit different. Some are elected, some are appointed, some it's a civil service job. I can't believe we've had 0 of the right people apply, and my own Republican election board, which has now been kiboshed and replaced for the most part. They could have fired our Eric Olson easily. No harm, no foul. And the original complimentary of Republican election board said, "Oh no, he's nice. He's a nice guy. Why would we want to do that? We're going to work with him." They should have fired him on the spot and put in somebody more. But let's get more right-minded people, not just to be election officers, temporary deputized citizens during the election period. Let's have more people become the actual registrar or recorder. Now, let me just really briefly bring up a couple of other points here. The international situation is very relevant for our situation. And let me bring up a couple of quick points. Well, we talked about how much we love to hate the election machine companies. We got to thank the Filipinos. They're the ones who complained to the Biden Department of Justice last year. Hey, we got a U.S. election machine company over here bribing officials. And by golly, you have a federal law against that. You better do something. And that was Smartmatic. Everybody, you might remember the press release, very funny press release. They didn't name the company. They didn't name who was indicted. But thank you, because so this is not just a U.S. problem. This is a worldwide problem. Thank the Filipinos, because that kiboshed Smartmatic getting the president getting indicted, collapsed a number of lawsuits. But right now, the South Korea is going through essentially a communist revolution. And yesterday and today, they're 14 hours ahead of us. President Yoon, who was the one removed, but he's on the right side of things. It's the Democrat Party of South Korea that is the corrupt one. His whole testimony today was all about election fraud and the different forms of malfeasance that are going on in South Korea. Every single one of those is applicable here. So they're facing exactly what we face. So these international situations have a distinct relevance to us. Now, just a couple of real quick points. Virginia and New Jersey, we have elections this year. We have both Virginia and New Jersey are kind of off cycle in that we have essentially a major election every year, not just every other year. So watch Virginia and New Jersey. Virginia, we're going to try really hard to clean up the rolls, especially using that SCOTUS win. Watch New Jersey. They need to clean up their rolls. I know some folks up there, and they're going to work this hard. These are the two real pacing states for election integrity. And again, when we lose, we walk away. When we win, we walk away. We cannot walk away from this topic. Pressure everybody hard. Watch Virginia and New Jersey this year and use that Supreme Court win as huge precedent to clean up your rolls. And there is a huge nexus between the illegal aliens, and I will use that word. We're allowed to use that word again. That actually was part of an executive order, and the malfeasant growth of rolls and untrustworthy nature of rolls. So that's very important. And Raj, that's pretty much my point. So I'll surrender the rest of my time.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to let everybody know that we are on Rumble's pick of the week right now. We've got a high rating, probably thanks to Jovan being on. So thank you, Jovan. Aubrey is on now, Aubrey Campbell.
Yes, Aubrey, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and we can
All right,
see you.
Thank you so. You can see me. Okay, good. Thank you so much again, Steve and Raj, for continuing to host these so that we can continue to give our updates. My name is Aubrey. I'm the founder of TakingBackTexas.org and TBTR.us. We do election security work, basically exclusively. Sometimes I'll comment on other things that are happening, but I don't think that anything is as important as securing the elections, because everything to do with the border, everything to do with school choice, or, you know, child mutilation, you can't get any of that stuff taken care of if you don't have proper representation. And elections are how you get proper representation, right? I know that we're all on the same page about that, but, and probably nobody that's on this call needs to hear that, but just so the watchers know, or viewers, that's why we're constantly talking about this. It's not been fixed just because Trump won. We're not finished. So the epitome of my work, it is based on Article 1, Section 4 of the National Constitution, which outlines that state legislatures are the ones who should be designing election law. It's very clear. It says a body of duly elected representatives should be creating and designing the way that elections are run in their states. And I want to hint on something. I want to touch on something that the previous speaker mentioned, an NGO named the National Association of Counties. There are a lot of NGOs that have influence over our local and state governments and over our federal governments in all different sectors of politics, okay? But one of the most nefarious ones is these NGOs that have influence over the people who are directly responsible for administering our elections, okay? So I want to just kind of outline the epitome of my work and why I don't think lawsuits are going to work, all right? I don't think anything's going to work except for meaningful legislation, which I've already drafted. Because I'm a poll watcher, I train watchers. I don't ask the legislature to think of something. It's going to take them 3 years to get caught up to where we're all at, because it took us how long? I mean, I've been doing this since 2021, but other people have been doing this for even longer. Okay, so we don't have time for the legislature to catch up. We need to write the bills, take it to them and say, here you go. This is what we want you to do, and this is why we want you to do it, okay? So touching on the NGO that he brought up, because National Association of Counties is one of the NGOs that we have a big problem with my organizations, Taking Back Texas and TBTR.us. So in the Texas Constitution, it says our elections shall be protected by laws under due penalty, adequate penalty, from undue influence, including bribery, tumult, power, improper practice, or other undue influence, okay? The other undue influence is what we need to focus on, because that's where everything's getting screwed up. It's these NGOs that are influencing people that we need to only be influenced by the legislature. So National Association of Counties is a pretty local one, but I'll bump it up to a statewide one. And then we can talk about a national one. You could probably think of some national ones yourself related to elections. But one of the NGOs that I'm most focused on right now is the National Association of Secretaries of State. A lot of people are aware of that. I think CanCon did a report about that a year or two ago, and I had been tracking it for a while as well. So when these NGOs come in, and these NGOs are private organizations, right? So not necessarily subject to Public Information Act requests. We don't necessarily know what all they're doing, except that we know that they are recruiting members to join from our state executive branch, okay? So we're talking our state secretaries of state are all members of this NGO, the National Association of Secretaries of State. This is a national one, but it's made up of state executive branch employees, okay? So when they go to these little conferences like the National Association of Counties, National Association of Secretaries of State, and if they're watching this, I mean, prove me wrong. You could try to sue. I don't have anything, but you could try to sue. You could take my china and my crystal if you want, my 150-year-old family furniture if you want. But the National Association of Secretaries of State are where our executive employees go to talk themselves out of following the law as it's written. Okay, that's where they go, and they get these bright ideas to introduce these different systems that may or may not have even been approved by the legislature already. Okay, so countywide voting, they were working on that for a long time before it got passed in the legislature. They were pushing, these conferences that these NGOs host are sponsored by all the voting system manufacturers as well. And I'd love to be challenged on that because I have the evidence. So a state version of this national NGO will be the I'm from Texas, by the way, the Texas Association of County Election Officials. It used to be called the Texas Association of Election Administrators. But in Texas, if your county hasn't voted to create the position of election administrator, then you've got two different people running your election. So this NGO has made sure to cover all the bases, even for counties that don't have people like Hyder Garcia running their elections, okay? So the Texas Association of county election officials just had their midwinter conference down at South Padre Island, totally sponsored by ES&S, HART, VR Systems, which is what we track our absentee ballots in our countywide registrations. Okay, and other voting system vendors. We don't use Dominion in Texas because they're that bad and they couldn't even pass the SOS standards. And our SOS has weak standards in the opinion of the public, because they have authorized all kinds of special interest procedures pushed through these NGOs, supported by these voting system manufacturers, into our state without oversight from the legislature. So they go to this little conference, okay, whether it's the election officials at the county level or the Secretary of State officials at the state level. And what they're doing is when they come back from these conventions where they've had all these, bright ideas presented to them, what they do have the authority to immediately implement, they're doing so without any oversight at all from the legislature. What they don't have the authority to implement, or what might be illegal for them to do, these NGOs are paying lobbyists to go to the legislature and say, hey, look, I know this may sound like it's illegal, okay, and the law might say we really can't do this, but we have to go ahead and do it because it's the best thing, the people want it, and also the SOS knows all about it. So the SOS that just got indoctrinated at this NGO conference by some of these same lobbyists, so the NGOs and the voting system manufacturers, all this money is very incestuous. It's all going around in a circle, okay? Our secretaries of state and our county election officials are being asked to back up the lobbyists who are the ones that educated the SOS and the county election officials on these new programs in the first place. So the legislature, all they know is that they're being presented with all this expert testimony on how countywide voting is the best thing. E-poll books are the best thing. We need to introduce these voting machines. It's going to be faster. It's going to be easier. It's going to save us a lot of money, a lot of time. Okay. And they're just laying it on thick like a used car salesman. Okay. Our legislature doesn't know what hit them. And you and I are sitting over here blissfully, trying to figure out how we're going to pay all our bills. We're over here thinking that, well, this is just how life is. No. Things are screwed up because we don't have proper representation. And we don't have proper representation because there are powers that be, special interests, that are making sure that it looks like that we think we're voting, all right, but we have actually no idea what's happening inside of these machines. Jovan did a really detailed forensic audit that, a lot of people, I think honestly, a lot of people are upset because they wanted something different, or they wanted to be the ones that made the headline. I don't know exactly what it is, but Jovan did a decent job showing how some of the issues with the machines in Arizona could result in elections that are not representative of what the people intended. Okay. And so and we don't even use that system here in Texas. It's much more difficult for HART and ES&S counties to prove what's happening. Dominion is so bad that, just cursory examination, you can see that there are a lot of issues. But when we have people like the National Association of Counties, National Association of Secretaries of State, conspiring together to design our elections without oversight from the legislature, that's a direct violation of Article 1, Section 4 of the National Constitution. Okay? So there's something called the non-delegation doctrine that everyone needs to read. And my favorite website right now, Ballotpedia, has an amazing rundown of the non-delegation doctrine and how violations of the non-delegation doctrine lead us to an administrative deep state, which is what we're currently in right now. Well, we're probably about to get out of it thanks to Trump. But all through the Biden administration, we all know Biden wasn't running it. It was the administrative deep state that was drafting all those executive orders and pardons. Biden had no idea what was going on. So when you ask who was running the country, it was the administrative deep state. Don't even want to give it all to Obama. There's a network that needs to be cleaned out. And I think we can trust Trump to have gotten rid of a certain amount of them. But, these people are hard to find, and it takes time, to weed them out. So our legislation at tbtr.us focuses solely on binding the executive branch. Okay. My legislation doesn't really talk about the machines, except for a few pieces where we're asking the legislature to mandate the production of certain records from the machine, namely the early voting result tapes. We want to see those and make sure that those early vote result tapes that are printed from the machines match what's reported. And when those tapes are printed at the end of early voting, me as a watcher, I want to sign them. I want to know that whenever we pull those out later to total everything, those are the same totals that were reported at the end of early voting. So other than production of certain records, I don't really talk about the machines because we'll get to the machines. We can get to the machines later. We need to create an environment that is inhospitable to the facilitation of widespread election fraud without detection, which I believe is what the Secretary of State and these NGOs and the voting system manufacturers have facilitated. I believe, to be clear, I believe that the Secretary of State has authorized the widespread facilitation of election fraud without detection by removing ballot numbers, by adding additional numbers that nobody knows what they do to these ballots, which there's a lawsuit in federal court right now about that. Dr. Laura Presley has a lawsuit alleging that basically there's an illegal numbering system going on with the ES&S poll books. As you guys know, when you check in with ES&S poll book, you put the ballot in the e-poll book and it prints out a number. It's supposed to be your ballot style, which is supposed to be your precinct, including a split, whatever. There's a lot of nuance and detail there. When you get down into it, doesn't really add up.
Aubrey,
So
that's
there's
time.
some
You want to just wrap it up and tell them how they can reach you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at tbtr.us. We have a lot of legislation that we're taking down to Austin. We could really use your support. Feel free to make donations. There's a public donation link. I also have donation links that come directly to me if you want to help me out directly. And I appreciate you guys. I just want everybody to know we can fix this. It's okay. The founding fathers were brilliant. We have remedy. We just need to be pretty aggressive about it. And people aren't going to like it, but it's okay. We're not here to make friends.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Steve.
Mark Davis, you're up. We're running a few minutes late.
Hi, everybody. I've got a lot of ground to cover here. I'm going to try to be brief. To just give you some brief background on me before we get started so that my later comments will make sense. I started working with voter data in 1986 when my dad was the Republican nominee for governor. And by 2002, state party was asking me to serve as an expert witness in a disputed elections case up in North Georgia. That turned into 2. Then in 2018, there were 2 more cases. Then in 2020, we had a double voting case where we proved for the first time that double voting had occurred in Georgia. And we actually have 3 different kinds of double voting in Georgia. People who vote more than once on the same registration number, people that vote more than once on multiple registration numbers, and people who vote here in another state. But the real fork in the road happened, like many of you, in 2020. And what happened there was I woke up the next morning, like all of you, going, what the heck happened? And so I got a current copy of the voter rolls and started doing the same kinds of analysis that I normally do in these cases that I've testified in. And I found evidence of tens of thousands of unqualified voters that were casting ballots. And I knew at that point that I had to get that data to the Trump attorneys, which I did. And they put that in the Trump lawsuit here in Georgia. And I'm sure you're all well aware of the Trump-Raffensperger phone call. If you scroll down in the transcript where Kurt Hilbert starts talking, that's my data that they're arguing over before, during, and after that call. And when I talk about the fork in the road, I'm now going to back up to the other fork. We had the U.S. Senate runoffs coming up in January of 2021, which I'm sure you're all familiar with as well. And we knew that we were going to have a lot of unqualified voters doing the same thing in that election that they had just done in the general election. So we made the decision to start rolling out voter challenges. Georgia has 2 voter challenge statutes, and we chose to file challenges under 21-2-230. And around that same time, True the Vote came into town to meet with Secretary Raffensperger about doing their own challenges. And so there were kind of 2 simultaneous efforts going on at the same time. Theirs was broader than ours. Ours was more narrowly focused. And we had just put our challenge data in the can on December the 15th. And a few days later, we had started rolling out our voter challenges, and True the Vote had started rolling out theirs. And on Christmas Eve of 2020, all of a sudden, we all started getting knocks on our front doors, and we were served with a federal lawsuit from Mark Elias and his client fair fight. That began 3 long, hard years of lawfare with Mark Elias, and it was not any fun. And right before the hearing, the stress got to me. I went down with heart failure, lost the ability to walk. I've made quite a rebound since then, but I am heading towards retirement. And I mention this because, as far as I'm aware, I'm the only analyst in Georgia who routinely serves as an expert witness in these disputed elections cases. That's something that's got to change, and I am determined to try to teach as many people as I can how to do this stuff, how to do the analysis, and how to present evidence to a county board of elections or a state election board or in court or wherever. So that's one of the immediate goals. But we have developed some sort of best practices that I think would probably be beneficial for other states. We are continuing to pull voter lists and do analysis, and we are continuing with voter challenges. We did defeat Mark Elias's lawfare, which is wonderful. It set precedent in the Northern District of Georgia. But the weird thing is, he appealed that decision, and that decision came from an Obama-appointed judge who ruled that there was absolutely no evidence of any voter intimidation by any of the defendants. Mark Elias chose to appeal that decision against True the Vote, but not the co-defendants. Now, what he's basically doing is he's asking the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn an Obama-appointed judge. He's asking the liberals to do that on the court, and he's asking the conservatives to do the same. If he's unsuccessful, which I think he probably will be unsuccessful, then he will set binding precedent for the entire 11th Judicial Circuit. And it will have implications across the country because other courts will refer to the decision. So that's going to be a really important one. But for right now, we can continue to do voter challenges and actually have some protection, because every now and then Mark Elias messes up and he ends up setting just the opposite precedent that he intended to set out to obtain. So we're continuing to do that. The other thing that we're doing, and I think this is really important, going into each election, we are getting together and we're pulling a certified copy of the qualified list of electors for that election as close as we can get to the election day. And then we can go ahead and get started running NCOA, caste certification, delivery point validation, geocoding, et cetera, in preparation so that when the certification is done for that election, all we have to do then is pull down the vote history and tag the folks who voted, and then we are prepared. We are ready to go. And we did that here in 2024. There was another small election case in 2024 that was really notable for a school board race, which doesn't sound like an important case, but it was for a Democrat. And I deliberately got involved in that case. If I'm going to take the position that election integrity is more important than anything else and more important than our partisanship, we've got to mean that. And we not only won that case, it was the only case we've ever won without even a hearing. The other side folded. And now that brings me to the current case. There's a hearing next week in a case in House District 128, and I'm not really allowed to say a whole lot about it, but it involves districting issues and a whole other list of buckets that'll be involved. I would encourage everybody to try to follow that case. It's going to be a very, very interesting case. So aside from those efforts, and the main reason that we do these cases is in pursuit of election integrity, because what happens is every time a close election gets overturned due to legitimate election integrity issues, what happens is it causes the people who really matter, especially legislators and elections officials and so on and so forth, to sit up and take notice of what caused the election to be overturned. And the other really important aspect of it, it sucks a lot of the politics out of the room. when you start talking about election integrity issues, our opponents can play a lot of political games with them, but it's a lot harder to do in a courtroom. And I'm not saying impossible, because I've seen some of it in courtroom, but it's a lot less. So they're important to do. The other thing we're focused on here in Georgia is our legislative efforts. We've had some success there. We had SB 202, and then in the spring of 2024, we had SB 189. SB 189 mandated the disclosure of ballot images. And there's not enough time here to really go far down that rabbit hole, but we are doing ballot analysis here. It is yielding a lot of invaluable information, but our Secretary of State has played games with that. We had a fake audit that was done. He calls it an audit. I call it tech support, because it appears what happened there is they had an outside firm come in and basically participate in the election and monitor the election as it was taking place. And when they found issues, it appears that they instructed the counties to fix them, and then entire batches of ballots were rescanned. It's kind of like when a lawyer asks the other side for 3 documents and they receive 10,000 and say, go find them. It's a similar situation there. Thus far, it appears over 108,000 ballots were rescanned around the time of the election, immediately after the election, and even after certification of the election. There's a final report on those issues that'll be coming out here in the not too distant future that I think any of you that are dealing with Dominion where you are going to find really interesting. And speaking of Dominion, if you're not aware of the case of DeKalb Republicans versus Raffensperger, you really should be. If you go to my X, I'm Mark Davis GOP on X, and I've written a good bit about that case. The expert testimony in that case from Clay Parikh and Ben Cotton that went uncontroverted is utterly mind-boggling, and is focused on the security issues of the machine and the master password and all of those kinds of issues. And that case sort of triggered a movement. If you've seen people with T-shirts that say, "If you know, you know," and then it has the Dominion password on it, that's where all of that came from. And believe it or not, you can order those now. And I have no interest in this, but you can order those on Walmart.com, Amazon, Etsy, eBay, and several other T-shirt manufacturers. You can get T-shirts, hoodies, cups, flags, mugs, just all manner of swag. But if you're not familiar with that case, you really want to be. The other thing that we're focused on is the state election board. We finally managed to get 3 appointees out of 5 on the state election board who are election integrity minded. And they have begun to make progress, but it took us a while to make that happen. It didn't happen for us until last year. So, and then all these arguments came up. Well, you can't make major changes right before an election and all this kind of nonsense, but that didn't stop them in 2020. So we're still going down that road, trying to make progress there. And then we have our Secretary of State's race coming up. And that's going to be something to behold. There was a $5 million fund set up, and our Secretary of State, Raffensperger, was trying to raise $5 million for combating election disinformation. It appears to me that it could be a uniparty slush fund. We're going to have to find out how much money was raised and what that's going to actually be spent on. I suspect there's a possibility it could be spent in the upcoming Secretary of State's race, but you can bet we are going to be doing everything in our power to elect an election integrity person for Secretary of State. And not just Secretary of State, but our General Assembly too. We have tried to make it clear to anybody running that election integrity issues are a litmus test. Our party has a lot of litmus tests, from taxes to foreign policy to what have you, and election integrity needs to be right up there.
1 minute, Mark. You want to just tell them how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, that about sums up what I had to say. Again, I'm Mark Davis, GOP on X, and I write articles on X, and I also write them at the Federalist. You can find my author page if you go to Google and put in Mark Davis plus the Federalist. You can find a lot of interesting articles about Georgia. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Kim Yater, you're up.
Kim, you may have
I
to
love it.
unmute.
I love it. I love it. I am unmuted. Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Steve. Hi, Raj. Hi, Melissa. Hi, team. I see Tina in the background. I love that image. I love you, Tina Peters. Guys, I am so honored and excited to be here today because I am amongst the warriors. These are the warriors that have been standing from the beginning. So to be able to be here with you guys as the host of the Take Your Power Back show and as the co-founder of Take Our Border Back and team lead, it is an honor to run this race with you. So again, I just want to thank Steve and all of you for continuing to show up and just even reaching out to we show hosts and saying, hey, can you get this out to your audience? And I am honored to get this out to all of our audience and our broadcasters that have joined us. So we really have so much to celebrate right now. This is a big win. President Trump is in office. And now is the time for each one of us to take our power back at a local level throughout the county, as we have been doing. So before I go into sharing some groundbreaking news with all of you where we can assist President Trump, I want to encourage you. It's time to pick up our weapons. Yes, our weapons, so that we can take our stand against the devil's schemes. Guys, we are at war, and I know you know because we all know we are at war. And the first war that we're in is the spiritual war where we are warring against principalities of darkness. I want to remind you of a scripture, the armor of God, and it says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. This comes from the word of God. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God. So when the day of evil comes, it's here, my friends, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you've done everything to stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all of this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And then it goes on to say, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. This is that time. I share this with you because I want to represent you to the video that went viral, reached over 10 million people in September, October, November, and December, with Assistant Chief Sean Taylor of Millersville, Tennessee. I see some of you shaking your head. You remember this video exposed the mass corruption on a transnational level. If you remember, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation seized all the evidence that he'd been working on, urinating in his bathtub, leaving a trail out the door. Phil Williams, Channel 5 in Tennessee, throwing Sean under the bus, slandering him on air, making him out to be a conspiracy cop. You may have even seen them using my show, the Take Your Power Back show, in interviews with Veterans for Child Rescue, Craig Sawyer, who is working closely with Chief Sean Taylor on exposing the human trafficking of this mass corruption. Lastly, do you know that Fox TV told their audience on 2 separate occasions where Sean lived, his address? What do you think the agenda was there? Putting him in absolute harm's way. I want to represent you to the video that went viral. After you're represenced, we have an announcement to make right here, right now. You're going to hear it from the mouth of Assistant Chief Sean Taylor and former city attorney Brian Kroll. So stand by, guys. I'm going to go to sharing my screen with you and popping over here real quick. We're going to go to share screen. Guys, thank you for opening that up for me. I appreciate that.
You can
And
just
let's
share
up.
screen button. Just hit
Yeah,
the share
I
screen
got that
button.
right there.
Great.
Beautiful. And here we go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Assistant Chief Sean Taylor with the Millersville Police Department in Middle Tennessee. Many of you may have seen my video last week regarding the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation raiding our police department and my personal residence. They came and they seized evidence regarding corruption that we had locally that tied into corruption nationally, and they took all of our files so that we are unable to complete these cases. The cases that we've been working on affect every American. They affect us in the mortgages, fraudulent mortgages, human trafficking, narcotics trafficking, and many other crimes. We have crisscrossed the United States talking to state attorney generals, senators, congresspeople, and numerous law enforcement officials throughout the United States. We've identified a major corruption that's transnational. It involves the BRICS nations and China and investment companies and fraudulent mortgages on homes here in the United States in very key counties and key states. It goes into the election integrity and fraud, and is creating a geopolitical shift within our political system. This is a multifaceted attack from a foreign adversary who is paying off our local municipal, county, state, and federal politicians to keep from coming to light. We are moving forward with this case in other states and other arenas, even though they have taken our files and our information. This is very important to us. When I say us, I mean we the people. It's time that we the people come together. It's time that we stop allowing ourselves to be segregated by our own government. No matter what race you are, what creed, or what religion you are Americans. We need to stand together as Americans and demand accountability of our elected officials. It's time for this corruption to stop and for us to have our country back so that we know we leave it in the good hands to our children, our grandchildren, because if we don't stand up and do this, we will no longer have a country to hand over to them. I'd like to send a special thanks out to Mark Fincham. He wrote a very good article that all of you can go and read at yournews.com regarding the information that I'm talking about tonight. One of the things that happened that really upsets me that the TBI did at my residence was they urinated in my bathtub and tracked urine throughout my home. To me, that was the government saying, piss on you, America. And that's not okay. It's time to stand up, unify, come together peacefully, and demand accountability. Thank you very much.
That is former Assistant Chief Sean Taylor from Millersville, Tennessee. We shared this with you. I shared this with you today to re-presence you because we are announcing right now Operation Clean Sweep. All the work that you've been doing, every single one of you, all this work behind the scenes. We have created a template for you guys to access so that you can hold your leaders and our leaders accountable. Operation Clean Sweep, we need your support. We are here to assist President Trump. General Flynn says local action equals national impact, and it's time to take our power back locally. Retired Assistant Chief Sean Taylor and former City Attorney Brian Kroll uncover the witch hunt against Millerville Police Department and Veterans for Child Rescue. Craig Sawman Sawyer. This is mass corruption on a transnational level with tentacles far and wide, from Canada to the Ukraine, the BRICS nations to China. Election fraud, like you heard, voter fraud, geopolitical shifting, human trafficking cover-ups, fraudulent mortgages, hundreds of billions, if not trillions, in fraud and embezzlement. it appears that 60 to 70% of political leaders at a municipal, county, state, and federal level are complicit in one way or another. This is systematic corruption, all leading to today, the announcement of the federal RICO case, giving us the opportunity to magnify one piece of this corruption created. Now, guys, this law is a template for us to use so that we all have what we need to hold our leaders accountable. It's a track for you and me to run on. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to share with you a video that was shot this morning with former Assistant Chief Sean Taylor. And we also have with us a retired county attorney. He's amazing, or city attorney, forgive me. And that is Bryant Kroll. So I'm going to share that video with you, but I want you to put on your calendars right now. We're going to share this in the chat. Book your calendar. Next Thursday on January 30th at 10 a.m. Pacific. Next Thursday, January 30th, 10 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, we go live with this information. We're going to have shows back to back, but we are unleashing it so that you understand how this RICO case works and how to utilize it yourself. You can go to rumble.com/take your power back show live. I'm going to send that to you in a moment, but before I do that, let's see what former Assistant Chief Sean Taylor has to say, as well as David Bryant, City Attorney. Sharing my screen for the last time today, guys. Thank you for bearing with me. So I'm working on this end. We're going to share that. And I'm going to come right back to here. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. I'm retired Assistant Chief Sean Taylor. I'm here today to tell you about a series of shows that we're going to be doing. These shows are going to explain to you, the people, how you can take your power back and help President Trump fight the corruption that has plagued our nation. We're going to be discussing the corruption. We're going to be talking about the systemic voter fraud, the systemic election fraud, mortgage fraud, and especially child trafficking, and how the city of Millersville was targeted by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, Kim Kelly, and several others to attack us and discredit us. But as you know, America still stands because people stood up and they fought back. So the series of shows that we're going to be doing is going to be educating the people, we the people, because again, President Trump is one man. He needs all of us to come together to assist him in this fight. What we've done is we've come up with a civil RICO case to start attacking this corruption. And I'd like to introduce the attorney that's doing this, the former city attorney of Millersville, Bryant Kroll. Bryant Kroll has already filed a civil RICO case in Tennessee regarding all of the things we have discussed.
Thank you, Sean. As viewers are aware of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation raid on your house, but the lawsuit I filed on behalf of 2 Millersville detectives reveals how they were working with Sean Taylor to investigate money laundering, corruption, voter fraud, and election fraud shortly before the TBI executed those raids. Now, RICO cases are popular in the news lately, so we hope to educate viewers on how they work, what racketeering is and what it includes and things of that nature. This lawsuit reveals government overreach, retaliation, violations of constitutional rights, and a racketeering scheme that obstructed a lawful police investigation into child trafficking and was there to arrest pedophiles that were in and around Millersville, Tennessee. Now, the lawsuit quotes disturbing admissions from defendants Kim Kelly and Phil Drake, who are alleged to have orchestrated a racketeering scheme involving targeting individuals to financially exploit them for their own personal gain. The lawsuit alleges that the detectives infiltrated the undercover defendants, infiltrated the undercover pedophile sting conducted by the Millersville Police Department, and then provided the TBI and media with fabricated evidence, false statements, and edited recordings in order to target these detectives and promote their own unlawful business, a business which involved purchasing trafficked children and concealing them at a compound at an undisclosed location. We'll go through the lawsuit and show how Sean Taylor actually created a task force among various state agencies, which included the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the purpose of which was to combat various issues of corruption, election fraud, voter fraud, mortgage fraud, and money laundering. Detectives Todd Doris and Michael Candler were investigating these crimes. They'd accumulated the evidence and had even invited the local district attorney to come discuss the case over lunch. Instead of allowing these detectives to present these issues, the TBI executed a public raid, taking the evidence by force. We'll discuss not only what was taken from Sean Taylor's house, but also what was left behind. The lawsuit alleges concerning acts and omissions occurring among government officials at multiple levels. Join us as we break down this lawsuit, which may serve as a template for citizens in other states to use to hold their officials accountable. The show will air Thursday, January 30th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Central, and 1 p.m. Eastern on rumble.com/takeyourpowerbackshow/live.
It's time, people. It's time we, the people, get together, take our power back, and start getting some accountability. The accountability is what matters. That's how we're going to ensure the future for our children and our grandchildren to make this country great again. God bless, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Kim. We're running a little behind. We got to switch to our next speaker.
Absolutely. I'm going to put the information in here. You guys follow us. We'll see you next Thursday. It's time for We the People to take our power back. Information is going in right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Szynkowicz, you are up. Go ahead. Linda, you're up.
Okay. Thank you so much, Steve and Raj. Excuse me. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm Linda Szynkowicz from Fight Voter Fraud. All we're trying to do is have one vote for one legal voter. So that's what we concentrate on. Now, as many of you know, we had been giving out free data for the last 6 months on double registered, double voters. We thought we would have everything set to roll a couple of weeks ago, but we have found a number of the states still have not reported their 2024 results, which I got to tell you, here in Connecticut, it's baffling. So December 10th, they had to have the numbers in. December 17th is when all the numbers from the votes had to be presented to Congress. Now, we ordered the Connecticut voter rolls on December 30th, but they were dated December 18th, so it's still one day after. As we went through our analysis of just the Connecticut voter rolls, we found 26% of the towns had not reported their votes. So my question is, and it's a question for a number of other states, how can an election be certified when the numbers have not come in from the precincts or from the counties or from the towns? So that's going to be my big question to the Secretary of State next week with a number of stuff to back it up. It's just like, what's going on? Now we're finding out that other states are having the same issues. We're finding out, like in Hawaii, they put people in office before it was even certified. So it seems that there's a lot of states out there that are just thumbing their noses at the law. So that's one of our things that we are looking into in a number of states. I wanted you to know again that our data is being delayed. We will still be giving it out, hopefully within the next 6 weeks, because it takes an extremely long time as we run all our data because of the millions and millions of voters that we have. So you can still go to my website, fightvoterfraud.org, and order it. We will keep you up to date when it's available. And we also have the research tool I had spoken about a couple of weeks ago. And we've been completely vetting the whole research data tool. We're still not sure what to call it. What we have done is we have broken every state down into what websites for information you need to go to prove that the people have violated election laws, whether it's through your SOTs, using voteref.org, using VGIS, or very specific county records. We are just about done. I got the final copy this afternoon sent to me. I've just got to look through it. And we will be giving that out for free to anybody who wants it. You just need to contact me at linda@fightvoterfraud.org. And we will also be doing webinars. We'll have those dates set up on our website to go through a bit of the training and explaining all the information itself. But our goal this year is to be able, as Jovan was talking in the beginning about people working together, we want to give this information to as many organizations and people as possible across the country to help you within your state bring the information forward either to your law enforcement officials or your election officials or wherever you need to bring it. So again, I want to thank you so much. My email again is linda@fightvoterfraud.org. I put the information in the chat. And once again, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Raj. And I'm hoping this gets you guys back on track. Thank you.
Okay, Raj, you see Greg Stenstrom on? I don't see him on.
I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Okay. You snuck
Wow.
in.
Some good stuff today. I had to join a little bit late, but Steve, I got my shirt on, you see?
All right.
All right. It's all clean and washed and highly recommended for the
I see
people who are
Jovan
here.
smiling. We got to get him a shirt because he never wears my shirt. And he does the Flag Day event, so he got to get him one.
Well, everybody, Jovan, you got to get one. You got to get one. It's really nice. And I've worn this to court. I've worn it all over. I've actually worn it into court hearings and always gets good comments. So it's everyday wear. So I've been listening carefully to everybody. How's my sound, Raj? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Good. I'm not going to be that long today. Sometimes I run right up to the last minute, but hopefully it'll be a little shorter today. So I'm listening to everybody and I've been watching what's going on. I was lucky enough to be in DC for the inauguration. It was a Liberty Ball. And what a great time in our country and what a great feeling. And I heard enough people express that. So I just wanted to add my sense of relief of President Trump being elected and seeing the vibration down there was just incredible. So what has ailed our nation, and it's still ailing it, is simple. Not easy, but simple. And President Trump called it out in the first few moments of his inauguration speech. And I was listening very carefully. And if you'll remember, he said, what's ailing our country is a wealth extraction scheme by a small group of criminals. That's the root cause analysis for what ails this country, is criminal wealth extraction at a major scale. And the key to that and how to kill it is to identify the vectors for that wealth extraction and target the specific players, remove them, and we win. President Trump, a lot of people I think have questioned or they're not quite sure what he's doing, but once you put it in that lens and say, look, he's going after the nomenclatura, the people who are part of this control mechanism, then you'll see what he's doing is pretty phenomenal and pretty plain to see. Going after these key players. Election fraud, or rather massive election fraud, which is what I've been working on and most everybody here, was never the reason to tear, or it was a key component of the wealth extraction, but it was one of many control mechanisms implemented by that nomenclature to further their ability to extract wealth from our country. And I heard a couple of people said earlier that lawsuits are not the way to go. But it is a very effective means of of making changes. And lawsuits are frustrating, but very useful. And pro se lawsuits in particular are very, very cost effective, as long as the pro se litigants know what they're doing, which most people here on this call, I'm going to say all people here, because I've been doing these calls for a while, are very familiar with, and many of you have executed. They are cost effective means when done when done correctly at implementing change. But the biggest thing that these lawsuits do is they allow us to retain and document the evidentiary base that the U.S. Attorney General, who will hopefully be Pam Bondi, and FBI Director Kash Patel, the evidentiary base is what they're going to need to go hit the ground with what Steve Bannon calls increased muzzle velocity and hit the ground running, which is what President Trump was doing with his executive orders. And, we're all moving fast now. So, we need that. They needed that evidentiary base to work with and not have to start from scratch. It's a little late in the game. If they didn't have all the evidence that we've collected of the massive election fraud in 2020, we'd be behind the curve, but we're not behind the curve. So let's look at the root cause analysis for election fraud, massive election fraud. Since 2020, it was the rapid implementation of centralized counting centers. In 2020, they only needed a couple of dozen key counties of the 3,143 in the country. They only needed a couple of dozen in key swing states to subvert and steal the entire election. The 2020 election was stolen. We have the evidence of that massive election fraud, and it's been entered in our courts with our Justice Department. And I'm going to cover that in a second. What's happened since 2020 is a rapid expansion of hundreds of more centralized counting centers throughout the country. As we expose these centralized counting centers and how they play, what you'll find in every state and every county is that the centralized counting centers are the biggest precincts, are the biggest districts inside every county and inside every state. It's where the largest blocks of votes are counted. Jovan's joining us here today, and as you could see, when we were down in Arizona, what was most amazing to me about Arizona was that all of those votes were sitting in one centralized counting center, Maricopa, and there was a focus there. I think that the proof of massive fraud, we've had it. We've got videos of election officials, senior election officials admitting to fraud. We've got the Secretary of Commonwealth of Pennsylvania who's admitted in court that all of the machines in Pennsylvania are uncertified. All of them. None are tested properly in accordance with the requirements of law. And at least in Delaware County, we have the evidence right from the code listings that there's unauthorized and malicious code in the machines. It's shocking, but the machines were perverted and subverted. What's protected our elections is decentralization. For hundreds of years, elections that are run by the citizenry, going to your neighbor's garage, going to a local business, going to a local school, and where people all knew their neighbors, and voting districts were 50 people, 100 people, 200 people. In Delaware County, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from, we used to have 3,200 people running the election in 428 precincts. And over the last couple of weeks, corrupt, criminal election officials and county council in Delaware County have gone into a mad rush, consolidate 104, 25% of our election districts and precincts, and to consolidate them for efficiency. We'll save $50,000. It'd be better if one person, one director of elections, a position that's never existed before 2020, he'll run everything. Of course, he's the biggest criminal. He came from Chicago. He's a criminal here. We've proven that he's a criminal, but we're going to put the elections in his hands. So basically, we did another root cause analysis, and we said, how did this all happen? I wrote an article called The Council, and who's running the United States of America. It's published in intelligencer.today, and it's published on patriot.online. It's got over 50,000 downloads from mostly the DC area and over 30 million views. I've been on shows talking about it. The council is a legislatively created body, otherwise known as the CIGIE, CIGIE, consists of the U.S. Attorney General, the Inspector General of the United States, Michael Horowitz, and the FBI Director Wray, and several other key players. And that's a legislatively created body that is sui generis. They report to no one. And they can impeach, they can obstruct investigations, they can order investigations. And that small group of people, the CIGIE, was what ailed President Trump during his first presidency. And he said another thing during his inauguration and throughout the night is that he learned a lot. He knows who these people are now. And this is a small group of people. There's no huge shadow government. We do have a federal workforce of 2.5 million, well, 2.4 to 2.5 million people, but these are good people. Nobody joins the FBI to be a bad guy. No one joins public service or that joins the military, NSA, Secret Service to be a bad guy. Everyone joins to be a good guy, to do public service. But the CIGIE and certain political appointees, having recognized that, took our government agencies over and our good public servants and weaponized them. President Trump, again, mentioned that during his inauguration. So our collective enemy is not some amorphous shadow government. It's a relative small group of criminals. We identified for Delaware County, we wrote the book, Leah Hoops and I wrote a book called The Parallel Election. And we told everyone exactly what they did, exactly who did it, and we gave complete evidence of massive election fraud. We've since filed criminal disclosures with the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, National Archive, the Pennsylvania Attorney General, the Pennsylvania Inspector General. How much time do I have, Steve? A minute? Steve? Sorry, am I talking to dead air because I still here? Oh, I lost the sound? You got no sound. Oh, we're good. Okay, thanks, Javon. So we filed criminal disclosures with criminal charges against William Barr, Merrick Garland, Christopher Wray, Inspector General Horowitz, and so forth. These are all sitting there waiting for Pam Bondi, all waiting for Kash Patel. And what we did in our lawsuits and in these disclosures is we've mapped out this nomenclature. We have hundreds of rights to know and FOIAs that document this, emails that document the election fraud and the communications between all these people. We have hundreds of whistleblowers, packages of whistleblowers that they've created ready to go. And we're going to go after these nomenclature, the CIGIE, and these specific people that ripple down into the states. Josh Shapiro is a criminal. He's a governor of Pennsylvania, for people who are not familiar. Josh Shapiro is a criminal. I can say that with great veracity because we have the evidence that he's a criminal. It's just no one's been willing to prosecute him. Well, that's going to change in the coming months. That's going to change with the Trump administration. These people will be prosecuted. We have 582,000 mail-in ballot envelope images since 2020 that we've collected through Right to Knows. We have federal lawsuits that are still in motion and others that we're preparing to file, where we give complete evidence and testimony of massive election fraud. We can show that the machines were compromised. We don't need to, I love going here in these meetings because we have experts here that can testify that Dominion machines, Hardin to Civic, ESNS are corrupt. As a matter of fact, they're not even tested by the NIST labs, which they're required to be by law. We've got that evidence. So kind of going over our lawsuits here, Leah Hoops and myself were sanctioned 7 times, hundreds of thousands of dollars, unsuccessfully. We beat them. We were co-defendants with President Trump and Rudy Giuliani in Philly in a defamation suit. We won that one. They withdrew once we showed them our evidence. We just won another defamation suit here in Delaware County with co-defendants Newsmax, Hogan Gidley, The Federalist, Margot Cleveland. Again, We provided evidence of massive election fraud. We said they did exactly what we said they did. Okay, so what's your beef? What's the defamation here? And we won. We've got a malicious prosecution case that was filed against us to thwart us. We expect that to be dismissed in the next week or two, and we've stopped that. We were recently heard in the Commonwealth Court. We have the last remaining case for 2020 election fraud, I believe, in the country. And the Commonwealth Court is going to deliver in the next couple of weeks that will be remanded to trial. That was our only request. Let's just take all this evidence of massive election fraud. We'll invite all our friends. Javon's here. I'm just saying because Javon's right in the pit, right on my top of my screen. But we'll take Mark Cook. We'll take most of the people here. Linda Szynkowicz, I can see here. Your camera's off, Linda. But these are the people that we're going to be going to court with, and they'll bring their evidence of massive election fraud, and these will eventually be adjudicated. So, what we did in this last election, and to wrap it up, is that we targeted mail-in ballots from unqualified electors. We removed 60,000 votes in Delaware County alone by challenging these unlawful mail-in ballots. 60,000 from Kamala Harris. Biden got 120 in 2020. Kamala Harris got less than 60,000 in 2024. And that's in Delaware County alone. In Montgomery County, we had a group of people there that were surveilling all the drop boxes with cameras, every single drop box, all the substations, had them under constant surveillance. They trimmed another 50 to 60,000. Throughout the county, in Bucks County, Chester County, Fayette County, similar efforts by patriots removed over 200,000 fraudulent mail-in ballots from tabulation. And across the state of Pennsylvania, we had 700,000 less early voting and mail-in ballots. And I know people like to say too big to rig and the early voting saved the election, but that's not what saved the election. Trump won Pennsylvania by 100,000 votes. Okay. And we knocked out the people in this on this show and in Delaware County, myself included, we knocked out personally 200,000 of those fraudulent ballots from 2020. We knocked out in 2024. So, I'm glad, victory has 1,000 fathers and, defeat is an orphan. And I don't want to take anyone's, fire away. There's no reason. We're all shooting in the same direction now. But the efforts of the people here, the people, the grassroots, the people, Steve, the people that you've assembled, these are the people that are going to fight and continue to fight. One last thing, and do I have 60 seconds, Steve?
Yeah, definitely. Joanne's going to close it out. So, we need a couple of minutes. Go ahead.
One of the last things is that part of filing the lawsuits is we've established a pattern. We can see a pattern of administrative obstruction. And what they did is it wasn't so much the judges, and we have plenty of corrupt judges, but a lot of good ones. We have more good ones than bad ones. But what we saw was key judges, corrupt judges, got involved when the administrative clerks could not subvert a case. We identified Scott Harris as the clerk of the Supreme Court of the United States, the marshal, which is Gabriel Curley, the person who handles emergency filings at the Supreme Court. His name is Meeks, I think Robert Meeks. We've identified these people as taking cases and obstructing them from reaching the justices. We've similarly mapped out the Third Circuit, Federal Circuit, district courts, and we've done this not only in Pennsylvania, but in other places of the country. We know this is the people that President Trump says, people who are federal employees who are not doing their jobs, we're going to remove them. And I just named 3 people right at the Supreme Court. These are people who are guilty of crimes. We submitted this to the Supreme Court. Judge Alito and Judge Thomas have filings right in front of them right now where we make these accusations, and they're well justified. So what the lawsuits have done is they've allowed us to map things out. They've allowed us to see the big picture. We know what they've done. We know how they do it. We know how they stop it. The fight's not over. I think it's going to take several years, and especially we have to pay real close attention in 2025 and 2026. But we're making moves. I could use some support. You can find us at the parallelelection.com or parallelelection.com. You can download our book. You can watch a movie called The Big Con for 28 minutes if you don't have the time. If you go to patriot.online, there's a donate button there. This cost a lot of money, folks, and we don't have any major benefactors. This has been grassroots efforts and a lot of sweat, blood, and tears, and we'd appreciate your continued support. And Steve, thank you again. I'll see if I can pick up another shirt. I can't thank you enough, and thank everybody here for listening and appreciate your time. It's good to see you, Jovan. I'm glad you joined us today, and I understand. I'm sorry I missed you. I had my hands deep into a furnace and a boiler, but I'm glad you joined us, and thank you everybody for being here.
Okay, Jovan's going to close us out, and we appreciate it. Greg, you do a phenomenal job. I know hopefully they start to look at your Supreme Court case because that's important.
Thanks.
Yes, and right before Jovan comes on the screen here, just a reminder for those of you guys who came late, please share this video with people in your life, particularly the first segment. Everything was good, but the first segment had Jovan on it, and you please need to share that with the people in your life. That's a message that needs to be heard. This entire show is being dedicated to Tina Peters, who is still in prison and has not been rescued by the Trump actions. And so the link to that I'm going to put in the chat. You can see this video here of her interview with David Clements. There will be another interview with Tina Peters that you've got to hear on the Joe Hoft website. I'm showing that to you here. Lastly, please take advantage of this phenomenal offer from Patriot, from Flagshirt, 50% off. A lot of us wearing these beautiful shirts. You guys need to have your own shirt as well. A lot of you are interested in getting the replay of this video. Go to sternamerican.com, click the Rumble channel. When you click the Rumble channel, you will be able to then click on live, right here, live. And that'll take you to all the replays, not just of today, but all of the shows that have been taking place. And you can see 62,000 views here, 76,000 views here, 107,000 views here. You all are making that happen, so please continue to help us with that. And back now to Jovan to close us off.
Great. Thanks, guys. I think, folks, what you witnessed is we have an incredible knowledge base. More important about knowing what works, we actually now know what does not work. Let's think of a few things. If the precinct strategy has 400,000 people and one group over here has 200,000 people, etc. I want to go back to what I said earlier. Could you imagine if we took all of this knowledge base, synthesized it down, made it where we could pass that knowledge base on to people like you that care about this and want to do this? Imagine the multiple PhDs you would have in this fight for elections. Now, I really never support watering them down. You know, we've pivoted many times in election integrity, and we're J6 over here or border over here, whatever. I'm only talking pure election integrity. Imagine if we synthesize that down. Imagine if we got everybody to get together, because look how many different sites or call to actions or call for donations that just in this one call. Now you magnify that across the country. I believe there is a way to push all of us into one group. Now I want to make this clear. I'm not talking about it becomes a national organization. I'm actually talking quite different. I'm talking about taking this knowledge base, getting everybody trained up in every part of it. How many of you know how to file a lawsuit pro se? But think about how many people could do it. Most people fear it. They don't know what to do, but it can be passed down very easy. Now, in order to do that, granted, we all have to work together. We all have to talk together. We have to push together. This doesn't mean that people in local areas stop doing what they're doing. It means, folks, here's the one thing we're missing. And here's the reality. When somebody mentions to foreign countries that President Trump is going to be president again, you saw it with Hamas, you saw it with France, you saw it with other things. When they knew President Trump was coming back, they immediately start getting their crap together. You know what we don't have? we don't strike fear in anybody's hearts. We don't strike fear in lawmakers' hearts, politicians' hearts. We don't strike fear that we're going to come after and we're going to fix this. This is what I'm talking about with consolidation. There are so many different factions of us, so many different groups of us, so many different ways to pull money or donate here with all these different things. Imagine if we could find a way to come together, push them all into one organization. It doesn't stop anything, but we come up with the right branding, the right message, the right unity, where we are all this one large organization. And the message is, get this shit fixed, because you don't want us coming after you. Imagine what would happen when you hear about these other county recorders that are up under the level. Well, when we push together 2 or 3, 400,000 people to get on it and say, this is what we need you to do today, we can get on it. I watched it happen even in the groups I have, where we took not even 8 people when the Attorney General in Arizona wouldn't pay attention. And then he started running to be a senator. He was leading the race at like 77%. We basically took what we know about moving the needle online, and it didn't even take 2 weeks, and we drove him down to barely 3rd place out of 4. That's the power we really have, folks. We have all these great disciplines and these great wins. What we're not doing is we're not force multiplying ourselves. The way they fight us in sowing false narratives is to force multiply their message. We're not force multiplying our message. So my call is a very simple thing. You could just look at chat. You could look at this thing. Look out how many names, how many groups, how many .orgs, how many donate here. I think if we really got our heads around it and we pulled in the 5, 6, 700,000 people that really care, everybody pitches in $5. Do you understand what we've got as an organization? We will start drawing blood. We will start drawing fear in their eyes. And that's why I used the Arizona audit. They tried to go against the American people and say, I will just do a few ballots. And when we didn't accept their bluff, and I said, great, I won't do any, but I'm going to tell the people what happened. And people called. It sent shockwaves through the system. So much it permanently pissed them off. Great. I want to piss off a lot more people. We need that big stick. We are the big stick. We know how to do this. We're just not talking to each other. So my plea is, think about that. Put every organization aside. Some of us work in technology. Some of us work in filing pro se lawsuits. Some of us can help draft this. Some of us can do this. But if we pulled all of that encyclopedia of knowledge together and we walked in unity under one brand, we literally will get things changed. We don't have to wait on politicians. We don't have to wait on their petty rules. And we can move them. I want everybody to understand the power we have. And I want to go back to what happened when we all got affected by this in 2020. I think we can bring that unity again and stop the competition. And we got to come up with the right name, right organization, but we will be something to be reckoned with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jovan. We'll just let everybody know that on March the 3rd, we're going to have, can you put that up, Raj?
It's there.
It's up. Okay. I can't see it on the screen. I see you. Anyway.
It's just because my head's so big and it takes a while for my head to clear screen. So forgive me.
So 2 hours ago, Maureen Bannon said she's going to play in the golf tournament and invite other people. We have a lot of corporate people playing in this. While they're playing, we're going to have an election security call. That's going to be huge. It's going to be from 10 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock. We're going to have probably about 20 speakers on it. Jovan, you're invited to come. It will be sensational. In the afternoon, Maureen's going to speak. Her father was going to come, but he just got his trial moved from February 19th to March the 4th. So actually March the 3rd is going to be very difficult. So he said he would do a video. And we have Tom Homan possibly coming. He's trying to get permission. Laura Trump trying to get permission. So there'll be a lot of great speakers. This takes a lot of effort. If you think putting an election security thing takes a lot of time, you can imagine what this takes a lot of time. So if anybody wants any information on it, On our next meeting, I will bring a lot of information out. We have a lot of people working on this. The Broward Republican Executive Committee, the Palm Beach Executive Committee is helping us. People around the country are helping us. People are flying in from all over. This will be a Trump International in West Palm Beach, March the 3rd. Golf starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. It lasts to 1. Our speakers go from 1 to 4. Last year was phenomenal. So thank you very much for everybody coming. Raj, you want to give some closing statements? Raj may have moved off. All right, then we'll just close it down. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming, and we appreciate it. We'll let you know how many people have attended. We have War Room has about 40, 50,000 on it right now. We have other places that have 10 to 20,000. So it's being all over the country. I want to thank all the podcasters. Takes a lot of time. Melissa, my assistant, who's on there. Hello, Melissa. And Samantha. Everybody was calling podcasters to get them back on. We're up to about 150. We're trying to get 50 more to have around about 200 podcasters all over the country. And that's the way we get the word out. I think Joe Bond's right. Just Moms for America has got 500,000 people. Turning Point. All these people have zillions of people. If we had one voice to attack all our congressmen, our senators, and actually let them know what's going on, that, you know, that we can't, there's so much fraud going on. And I speak to Democrats who tell me, oh, there's no fraud going on. We got to laugh at this. You know what I mean? I mean, Joe Vaughn himself probably can tell you about 100 different things that are happening. Also, Greg Stenstrom, his lawsuit up there has got about 349 pages of fraud that he can prove. So it's all there. So again, thank you very much. Have a good week. Action, action.